So now I'm joined in studio with Carolyn Qualley, or Carol Qualley, I should say.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So thanks for coming in. And I know it's a really nice day out, so I thank you for taking the time out of your day to come here and spend the night hanging out in my studio. So the first question, obviously, I want to get to ask you is, who are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Carol Qualley. I grew up in Markham, Ontario, so it's not too far from here. It's just about half an hour out of the city. But I started with music at a really young age. I started like around 4 or 5. My dad, we're Middle Eastern, so I grew up listening to him play the oud. Actually, it's a Middle Eastern lute. It's like a pear-shaped guitar. Have you ever seen one?
I think there's one in your website.
That's right. Yeah. If you've seen the website, then you've seen the guitar. Yeah, he plays that, and I pretty much was introduced to music by his hand. And I just fell in love with music, and ever since then, my parents put me in piano lessons, and I studied at the Royal Conservatory of Music for as long as I have, and graduated recently.
Right on, and now you're also a York University graduate.
That's right.
And what was that experience like at York?
Well, at first, I started off with a bachelor's degree at UOIT in criminology, so it was completely out of my comfort zone, and I switched immediately, and I switched into music, and that was the best decision I've ever made, and ever since that decision, it led me to a master's degree at UNC, so in music as well. So. And
that sort of leads into my next question, actually, one of my questions, which was, now you're at UNC in Winston-Salem, and what's that experience like being Canadian and being down in North Carolina and being a musician?
Well, it's definitely, I'm definitely the underdog. I always say that. I mean, being a female in my program is definitely like one of the most unpopular aspects of it all. Female, I'm young, and it's like those are two things that you'll never see in film scoring. So it feels good to kind of try to break into that. So it's great, yeah.
Do you get discriminated a lot because you're female and you're in film scoring, or is it just something that people think why?
Actually, I'm not sure. I mean, I was worried in the beginning that I would be at a disadvantage because of the fact that I'm female and they won't take me seriously, because most of the composers are all men, and all my peers are men. So I was a little bit nervous on that part, but it ended up working out really well, and I did really well this year, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Pretty happy that you chose
Absolutely.
To go there. Well, that's key. And so I was reading your website, and your Lebanese background,
yeah.
And that's a big influence in your music, and sort of why is that? I mean, it sounds like a really basic question, but I'm curious to know why you put that into your music.
Well, the reason why I would always make a point to saying that I'm Lebanese and it has such an effect on my music is because my family is first-generation Lebanese, so Lebanese Canadian. So our culture is very deep in our roots, and it still is, like till this day. I have a huge family. They're probably all listening right now, but yeah, I've got a big family, and we're all very musical from both sides. There's big musical roots in both sides. So anytime we're together, we're always playing and singing, and it's just always been like engraved in who I've been, so it's always been an easy thing for me.
Well, that's certainly an awesome thing to have, and reading your website as well, your dad is he's mentioned quite a bit on your website, so your dad has had a big influence in you musically.
Well, yeah, of course. I always say that my dad is my biggest influence, as cheesy as it sounds. Right. He really is, though. He's always supported me. He's never told me to stop from music. If anything, he's the one who's always told me to keep on going.
Well, parents can be your biggest support, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They love you the most.
Yeah.
So they're either going to be 100% behind you, or they're going to question what you're doing, but still support you anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So at UNC, you're in film scoring. So tell us a little bit about like film scoring, and some people probably don't know what that is, or really, I've never really had anybody on here that's done film scoring, and talk to us about what that is like.
Well, absolutely. It's definitely a field that isn't really popular at all. most people don't really know what it is when I say I'm mastering in film scoring. They say, well, what on earth is that?
Right. Be like, that's not a game, is it?
Yeah, I know. What are you talking about? You score films? What does that even mean? But well, I just have to say it in most simplest terms. I write music for movies,
Right
and they usually get that. But the thing is, most people don't usually notice that the background music that sets the tone when they're watching the film and when the two characters are talking, that underscoring underneath, the music underneath, the dialogue and all that stuff, that's all specifically composed for that film. And most people just completely overlook it because it fits so well that you don't think to think about it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that actually leads me to something that me personally just wanting to know, and now that I know someone who does film scoring, I can actually ask this question and maybe get the answer I'm sort of hoping to hear, or not hoping to hear, but wanting to know, and that is, for a movie like Pirates of the Caribbean, which we've talked about already, but how difficult is it to find the score to set the scene? Like, is that a process that takes a lot of time just to find a score for one scene?
Well, usually how the process works is that the filmmakers will temp the final cut of the film, and we're the last part of the process that gets the film, and when we get that film, we get a temp track and temp score along with the final cut of the film. So we actually see what the filmmaker is, looking towards and the kind of direction that they want, because ultimately it's their vision, their direction, but we're the experts in that field, so we will be able to tell them if they're in the right direction or if they need, some editing, and we kind of reproduce a score that sounds similar to their temp track, or sometimes the filmmakers will give us the freedom to just do whatever we want, what we think is right.
Right on. And now, sort of switching topics a little bit here. In 2007, you released your first sort of album thing. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, that was my very first venture into being a musical entrepreneur, kind of like going into the direction of making a name for myself. Mm-hmm. I was only 17 when I did it, or 17, 18, and I didn't know what I was doing, and that was the first time I got a hold of recording equipment. I just set it up in my basement and went along with improvising and recording what I improvised. So I wouldn't say that it's my most proud moment of a compilation of work, but it's definitely the first definitive thing that I have that we'll look back on,
Right on.
Yeah, it started it.
And you've also performed in front of crowds of up to 500 people. Yeah. What has that experience been like for you?
Well, it's definitely nerve-wracking. I've never been the type that is at ease with performing in front of people. I'm just very high stress, but maybe one day I'll get to that point where I can feel the bliss of just performing and let go a little bit, but I think that takes practice. Right on.
And so when you were doing it, your stage fright set into it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just like your mind takes you into this place where you're so scared of what these people are thinking of you, and if they heard that mistake, and most of the time they don't know the mistake, they don't care about the mistake, they're just watching and enjoying, but being up there, you performing, you're not thinking like that. So
it's funny.
It's a tough thing.
It's funny because it's similar here on radio too. Yeah. I mean, usually some shows I've done very scripted shows, and if I screw up, I'll know it, and I'll carry it with me for about 5 minutes. And
yeah, absolutely.
But people that are listening don't know it, right? So it's very similar. So now I'm going to ask you: do you do any of your own film scoring? Have you done anything sort of on your own where it's just been, I'm going to film score for this movie, I didn't think that was the right score? Have you ever done stuff like that?
Well, you mean like anything that isn't a part of the school?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Just sort of on your own, just sit there and you're watching me this movie score sucked.
You mean like analyzing stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean I can't watch a film now and just enjoy it. I mean, ever since I've started studying film scoring, I've ruined every single film experience for myself for the rest of my life. I can't completely dive into the dialogue and the story because half of my brain is concentrating on the music and the direction that the music is going, and that's the difficult part of being in this profession. But I definitely have listened to some stuff that I really don't think has should have been made.
So now I have to ask you, how was the film scoring in The Hangover 2?
Actually, I listened to it very closely, and it was one of the parts of the film that I was really impressed with.
So one of the few parts of that film.
Very few parts of the film that I was impressed with. It was actually very good because the composer. I actually totally forgot to look at the composer name, but I noticed that he or she used a lot of aspects of the location. They were where was the location that they were?
I think it's is it in Thailand?
Thailand, that's right. So they used a lot of ethnic instruments along with a lot of alternative rock fusion, and I thought that was really cool. So I thought it was great.
We should look. Did you want to look that up actually?
We should look it up. Yeah.
So it's the composer that did it, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
All right. So, looking into the future, where do you see yourself sort of heading in? Not necessarily. I know you said not 5 years, but where do you see yourself? Where's your ultimate goal going to be, and where do you see yourself? What goal do you strive for?
Well, I always try to set myself up with short-term goals, and then the most important thing that I focus on is the short-term goals because they're most realistic. So right now I just currently got signed on to a feature-length indie film. It's called Because You're Too Nice, and they're currently fundraising for the film. They're shooting right now, and I won't start scoring the film until at least the first final cut of the film is done, and that's handed to me. But I can't wait to get started. It looks really great, and it's actually a company that's based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's called Process Pictures, and I'll send you the link.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the film itself?
Absolutely, yeah. The film is about the producer. It's actually about his story. It's a romantic comedy. He was recently dumped by a girl that told him that it's not going to work out because he was too nice. And I really I just fell in love with the story because I don't think it's ever been addressed, and it's a whole confusion that men and women are facing.
Right.
Being told that you're too nice.
I've heard that.
I've been told that, and I've told that, and it's a difficult thing, and I can't wait to see how they address it. But it's looking good so far, so I'm really happy to be a part of this project.
Now, will it be? I don't know if you'll know, but when it is released, will it just be an American only film, or will it be something that we could expect here in Canada?
Oh, 100%. They're going to be sending it all over to festivals. It's an indie film, so obviously it won't be in theaters. But,
right.
But
we could expect to see it at possibly the Canadian Film Festival.
Absolutely,
That's fantastic. Yeah. So definitely let me know. And so they're fundraising. So do you want to tell us a little bit what their goal is with the money?
Well, the fundraising goal is currently set to $5,000, and that's U.S. dollars. So. Yeah, if you could.
$20 bill will go a little longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything would go a long way.
Perfect. And do you know the actors that are going to be in it? Or?
They just finished casting, so I think they have some artist bios on the website, but I'm not sure of yet.
Well, that's fantastic.
We've got to check that out.
So now I have to ask, if there's anybody else that's listening and they want to get into film scoring, how did they do it? I mean, how did you decide, I want to film score? Where did that come from?
Well, it actually all started off in my third year of at York University Music. I was mutual friends with a director that was also in the film school. And I would say, just to make a long story short, the best way for anyone to start getting their feet wet in this is to start off with student films, because student films are things that are also being experimental. The topics of the films are experimental, and you have the freedom to really dabble into whatever you think you're good at, and you get a lot of experience that way, and sooner or later, when you network with these students, these are the future filmmakers of our time, so it's a good place to start networking.
Now, I have to ask, only because in two parts, partly because I got into York for script writing, and secondly because I'm really curious to know, do you guys work closely with the people who write scripts for these movies, or is it something that they hand you the script, you say this is what we're looking for, and you just kind of go and do your own thing?
Well, it depends on how organized the filmmakers are, really. I've worked with a lot of filmmakers that will just contact me when the process is all completely done, and they just approach me with their need of music, and that's a great way to start it off, and I'm happy to work that way. But with this film that I just spoke about now, they approached me actually really early on, and they sent me the script before they even started casting or filming or anything. And so I'm really I feel a lot more involved in this kind of way of doing it. But both ways work, and that's how it's run.
Is there a way that you enjoy more? Do you like being involved more? Or you
I do, yeah. I personally do like being involved more because I feel like I have more of a say in the film, even though I wouldn't want to give my opinion in any way, of changing anything, because they're the experts and I trust them and I would want them to do it their way. But it's nice to be able to discuss over such a long period of time, so I can really get the music the way they want it and the best way that film should represent.
And it makes you feel more inclusive too. Like
absolutely.
You're actually contributing more to the film.
Yeah,
here, just go do this, and when you're done, whatever, we'll see if it works.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, my next question then is sort of more about film scoring. But is there been a movie that stands out to you that has the best film scoring that you've what is the best one you've ever seen? Or is there a favorite one you have? Is this is so well done, it couldn't be done any better?
Well, my peers are going to laugh when I say this, but I just have to keep going with this answer. It's The Godfather for me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good movie. Those are fantastic.
I'll never step down on The Godfather. It's my favorite score. I have it memorized, and it's pretty much the soundtrack that has got me in love with the field. It's just such a beautiful, well done piece of music.
Something I want to ask too is some movies do this where I think Alice in Wonderland is I'm pretty sure they did it because they have you can buy the music that's from the that goes with the movie, but for whatever reason Alice in Wonderland chose not to include they had music by Shinedown and bands like that, but that wasn't in the movie. It was just score music in the movie. Is there a reason? Do you know why that's done or?
Actually, I'm not sure. I mean, the issues that I have faced in my time working with student films and stuff is because since they were so low back, I always make sure that I retain my rights, and so I have the license to sell my music under my own discretion. But for something that's a blockbuster, I assume that the studio would own it and they would sell it under their name. But that's why I'm a little bit surprised.
I know it's a kind of on the top of my head question, and I know it's probably putting you on the spot, and I'm not trying to do that anyway. But it's just one of those things that it's when I bought, I saw the list of music that's in the soundtrack, but then none of it was in the movie because the score.
Yeah.
And not even in the credits, so I don't know.
That's interesting.
It was just something they're hey, we're going to put this, and it relates to the movie, but buy it anyway, and it's not in the movie.
Actually,
kind of weird. I don't know.
That's really weird. I have never even seen that before.
Alice in Wonderland itself is a pretty strange movie.
Yeah.
So maybe that works with them, right? It kind of goes
weird,
with the whole concept of how that movie is done.
Yeah.
Anything else about scoring that we should know as just general audience? Because, it's something that a lot of people don't actually, like you said, don't even think about. It's something that just kind of, there's that scene leading up to, a really big moment or that love scene or something, then that really adds the effect to it. It's, almost,
Well, yeah, even Steven Spielberg himself has always said that his music, he works very closely with John Williams, so he has always said for his films that his films wouldn't have worked without John Williams' score. And it's so true because, the kinds of music that has been used in his films are so epic and they're so, they add to the drama and they add to the entire overall effect of the film that if you just completely took out the music, what would you have?
Yeah, that's true. I think it goes with a lot of movies, I think, too. A lot of Disney movies, I think, really go like that. If you took out the music, it would be what is this? It'd be good, but it would be really, come on.
Well, if you look back, a lot of our culture, American culture, is based on a lot of great movie scores.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, when you mentioned The Godfather.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, kind of getting to my point then, is just if there's one thing that me is just being some random person who doesn't know anything about scores, what should I know about it that, will make me, so when I sit down and watch a movie, be now I know what I'm looking for?
Well, I'm not sure. Just because my analytical brain picks out every single detail, I'm not sure how I'd be able to think of it in a general viewer's ears, but I wouldn't know.
Let's put it this way then. Is there a bad, what movies are bad with scores? Is there some movies that are just this was terrible? This just made the movie suck even more than it already was?
Absolutely. There's a lot of times where the composer just didn't know what the hell he was doing. So it just completely ruins the film. Man, I can't think of a topic or an example off the top of my head, but I'll definitely have to think about that.
Yeah, that's kind of an on-the-spot question.
Yeah, it's an on-the-spot one.
Yeah, I do a lot of on-the-spot questions too. I should have probably said that. it's interesting that you do film scoring because I've never had anybody in here that's done film scoring, and it is such an important part of a movie. I think it is besides obviously the acting in itself and the way everything works together as a team. But without film scoring, I don't think it takes the movie to the next level. It's like for Star Wars, if that theme song wasn't there, it's like would Star Wars really? Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, would it really be? Like, it wouldn't be as great without that theme song.
Well, yeah, and we naturally associate that theme, like, or even the Jaws theme, like, dun 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 dun. We, like, that's synonymous to danger now,
synonymous to sharks.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. So that's unbelievable for a field that is, like, not really recognized.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd be honest with you, before reading this thing, like, I only really knew of, like we said, Hans Zimmer and the person who did the Titanic, James Gordon Newton, and besides that, I really didn't know much about it, but I've always been one of those people to look for the soundtracks that aren't the, artists and all this, because I love that in the background music. Yeah. It's fantastic, but it's not something that's talked about. I mean, they don't sell a lot of records.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, now, they don't sell.
To ask, do you guys do anything towards video games? Like, is that a whole different bracket?
Well, I mean, for any composer that's able to score a film I think is completely capable of scoring a game, commercials, and all that stuff is like everything that falls under media is.
So it's kind of in the same bracket.
Oh, yeah.
You can do both. It's just interesting because there's a lot of older video game music that is obviously it's in a score, or it's been produced, and it's like, I wonder how they did that, or
absolutely.
Where they came up with that, and just doing some of your own score. Does a lot of it, like, generally what I'll ask artists that come on my show, and while you are unique, so this is probably a question that won't generally relate to you, but they write their own. It's like, how do you write your music? Do you think of a beat first and then write to the beat, or do you have lyrics and make a beat for it? But for you, because you score, do you like think of scenes in your head and then be like, I could create a good score for that, or do you have scenes where you see movies like that could be better? And
well, generally how we work is that we really are chasing the picture. So I mean, like, when we do get that footage in, we hook it up to the monitor, and we're watching it. And while you watch the film, you're, dabbling a little bit on the piano. I mean, that's how I do it, at least. And so that usually I usually get something right away after I see the scene for the first time, and I'm playing on the piano, and then I just go ahead and start orchestrating it and split it up between the orchestra and what the violins get and what the, stuff like that.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, one of my final questions is there anybody in Canada that's a great film scorer that you look up to as being a film scorer yourself? Is there anybody that's Canadian that really just is like a legend in Canadian film scoring?
I'm not sure that I would say a legend for me personally, but I do know that the guy who did Country Strong just recently, he's Canadian.
Right.
So I think he's moving up the ladder.
I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name either, but I know he was Canadian because I actually had to present his score at school.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But so there isn't really anybody besides that. I'm sure there's others, but
I'm sure there are, but I just.
Right. It's a very underground thing.
Yeah.
It's very,
it's underground. It's true.
Not a lot of people know about it or really think about it. They leave the movie and like, that was a great movie. But,
yeah, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's fantastic you do that, and thanks a lot for coming on. Is there anything else you want to add before we let you go?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I'd love to play you some stuff.
Yes, of course. We got to get to that, obviously, before we let you go. So, I should totally mention the fact that there's a couple of your songs that we want to talk about here. Which are the ones that you wanted to play again? We want to play the first one. Well,
first, I'll play you the end credits of one of the 5 films that I was scoring this year at UNC.
Sure,
we could just go ahead and play that one.
We'll get it queued up for you.
It's called Model Airplane.
Just get actually, we'll get it queued up on this one. We'll get it queued up in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about this one. It's from the movie The Model Airplane that you were
talking? It's called Model Airplane. It's a short film that was produced by a set of really talented filmmakers at UNC. It was a student film, and the reason why I like this piece, it's probably my favorite out of all the pieces that I wrote in these past 2 months for all the films, is because I got to use a lot of ethnic instruments. A lot of Middle Eastern instruments. I used like Indian, Cuban fusion and Lebanese fusion, just like a ton of things that I fused together, and I think it sounded really cool. So
that's fantastic. And can you tell us a little bit about the movie itself? Like, what is this movie?
Yeah, sure. It's a movie about a high school student who is kind of down on himself. He's not the greatest at school. He's always getting in trouble, detentions, and he's come across these two airplane aviator amateur enthusiasts and at school, and he starts to fix the airplane, and they were trying to fix it, and he ends up fixing it with this weed whacker. So there's actually a track called Weed Whacker, and
right on.
it's just like it's your American Beauty, great American story. It's tugs on the heartstrings a little bit, so it's pretty nice.
Well, we're going to take a listen to it right now, and